Can you name the top 10 countries that are the happiest to live in? First place, Finland. Second place, Denmark. Third place, Iceland. 10th place, New Zealand. Guess who slotted at number 9? Israel. How can we be in year 75 years without taking a few minutes to talk about this incredible country, Israel? By the way, you know where the U.S. is in the top 146 countries? Well, if you're curious to know, it's up this year, or the past year. It was 19. It's now 16. So Canada, not in the top 10. The survey is based on 14 different areas of concern, such as economics and citizen engagement, communications, technology, diversity and social issues, education, emotional well-being, environment, politics. Well, right there you'd think that for politics they'd be 146. Right there alone, 5 governments in how many years? It does make you wonder, doesn't it? In a country that seems to engage in low-grade wars with Hamas every year or two, where there is a constant threat of terrorism, where there is compulsory military service, where the Iranians threaten to wipe them off the map, where she is surrounded by enemies, where there is a dedicated movement called BDS to delegitimize her right to exist. You'd think that making it to the top 10 would be unbelievably unrealistic. And yet, here Israel is, year after year, breaking into the top 10 of the happiest countries in the world. I would say that is rather impressive. And even more impressive, as Israel reaches 75 years. For comparison, you know what other country reaches 75 years this year? South Korea, ranking 59. It begs the question, doesn't it? And I have nothing against South Korea. It's a lovely country. Why? Why? What is it about Israel that makes it into the top 10 that 135 countries are still trying to figure out? I wonder if it has much to do with why Israel was created in the first place, Zionism. The national movement of the Jewish people began because Jews saw, as we still see today, that the world is a dangerous place for us. Many people don't like us. Many people don't know us. And it is so easy to scapegoat that which you do not know. And anti-Semitism runs deep in the blood of so many. Zionism reminds us that we Jews are a people, and as a people, we have a collective right to a homeland in Eretz Yisrael. And like other peoples, we had the right to establish a state in at least part of that homeland in 1948, and now to build a society that we can be proud of. And I imagine that such notions of nationhood and the right to self-determination and the ability to remake the land of our ancestors, I imagine that brings deep resonance to its citizens. That and the fact that 76 years ago, Israel did not exist, and we lost 6 million Jewish lives. For if Israel had existed in 1939 when World War II started, and had existed when Jews in Germany and Poland were trying so hard to find a way out, and no country in this world would take them, there would be far more than the 15 million Jews in the world today. So yes, it is possible to understand why Israelis, and for that matter the rest of us, should be so happy. Because thank God, years before the Holocaust, during the turbulent and difficult moments of diaspora, Jews never, ever forgot their connection to our land. And thank God for those dreamers of the 18th and 19th centuries who envisioned a land that would once again be our homeland, that would once again bustle with Jewish merchants and farmers, doctors and judges and teachers. They could only dream of a once dead language, Hebrew, now spoken by millions. 9.3 million Jews in the land of Israel today. They could have only dreamt that a Jewish calendar and the stories and myths and customs of our people would frame the rhythms and rituals of a nation. Thank God. Which makes this year of Israel's 75th a celebration all the more profound, and at the same time, all the more disconcerting and distressing. Because once upon a time, Jews were proud and supportive of Zionism and our homeland. Once upon a time, but that is not the case today. Today, Israel is a cause of a great divide. Today, Israel is a source of disagreement and for many, even disappointment. Israel should be doing this. Israel shouldn't be doing this. Israel needs to do more of that. Israel needs to stop doing that. In a world where there is little, if any, room for imperfection, Israel stands at the heart of arguments for perfection. And I don't know why this is. Why is it that everybody demands Israel must be perfect? Is it because we expect so much of ourselves? Or is it a manifestation of that age-old anti-Semitism that is now framed as anti-Zionism? Now, to be clear, Israel isn't the only place where perfection is demanded. We certainly see it here in our own country. The need to imagine our national heroes as perfect, our founding fathers as beyond reproach, adhering to the very same system of values and beliefs that we moderns hold for ourselves. And in so doing, we whitewash or even remove statues, portraits, and names of those great individuals who didn't and possibly couldn't share an image of what is morally right and perfect in our generation. And this idea of perfection, it's not a Jewish value. It is not a Jewish value. It is not something that can be achieved. No person can achieve perfection, nor, for that matter, in any country. Our tradition sees perfection as aspirational, something we strive for, but not something that we achieve. Only God is perfect. Look at our own progenitors. Far from perfect was Abraham, who sold his wife not once but twice into servitude to save his own life. Don't get any ideas. Sarah, who kicked out of her own tent Hagar and her son Ishmael to wander with nothing in the wilderness. Jacob, who stole from his brother and deceived his father. Moshe, who killed an Egyptian without a trial. King David, who took another man's wife, Bathsheba, impregnated her, and then had her husband killed. And from him, we believe the Messiah is going to come. Our tradition is not about perfection. It is about doing the very best that we can and learning to live with disappointment and setbacks and flaws and blemishes and failings. But for some reason, when it comes to Israel, there is an expectation that this country must be perfect in a world where this expectation is not expected of any other country. None of us expect perfection in our spouses, in our children, in ourselves. So why in a country? Why in its politicians, in its decision-making? We love despite the flaws. We love despite the challenges. We love the imperfect, because that is the very essence of love. To be loyal to the other even when you might be disappointed in the decisions or actions they make for a person and certainly for a country. Instead of perfection, maybe we should be focusing on possibility and probability. The mere fact that Israel at all exists is in many ways beyond possibility and probability. Some years ago, in response to the question of probability, Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, Zichrono Livracha, shared these remarks at an APEC conference, which I believe in many ways provides the most remarkable way to frame the extraordinary accomplishments of the Jewish people in general and Israel in particular. He asked, how probable is it that one man, Abraham, who commanded no empire, ordered no army, performed no miracle, delivered no prophecy, should today without doubt be the most influential man who ever lived, who's claimed as the spiritual ancestor of 2.4 billion Christians, 1.6 billion Muslims, and all of us? How probable is it that this tiny people, the Jewish people, numbering less than 1/5 of 1% of the population of the world, less than 1/5 of 1% of the population of the world, should have outlived the world's greatest empires? The Egyptians, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Greeks, the Romans, every empire that ever stood up to destroy us, they have been consigned to history, and we still stand and sing, Am Yisrael Chai. How likely is it that after 2,000 years of exile, our people should have come back to our land, and therein stood eyeball to eyeball in Auschwitz a mere 3 years earlier, eyeball to eyeball with the angel of death. In 1948, and said, despite the worst crime of man against man, Lo amut ki ehyeh, I will not die, I will live. Israel is the greatest collective affirmation of life in the whole of Jewish history. Friends, Judaism is the defeat of probability by the power of possibility. And nowhere will you see the power of possibility more than in the state of Israel today at 75 years. Israel has taken a barren land and made it bloom again. Israel has taken an ancient language, the language of the Bible, and made it speak again. Israel has taken the West's oldest faith and made it young again. Israel has taken a shattered nation and made it live again. Let us not rest until Israel light shines throughout the world's greatest symbol of life and hope. This year, 75 years young, Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, 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 Am Yisrael Chai. Gemar Chatima Tova to Israel and its next 75 years.